Hi, my name is Jennifer Williams, and today I'll be presenting work that I've done with my advisor, Layla Webby, entitled Behavior Measures Are Predicted by How Information is Encoded in an Individual's Brain. The motivation behind our work is that linking individual brain differences to behavior can increase our understanding of the brain-behavior relationship. Recent neuroimaging studies have shown that individual differences in neuroimaging measures like brain anatomy, functional connectivity, and structural connectivity are predictive of behavior. However, these measures don't focus on the brain regions themselves. We hypothesize that behavior can also be predicted by how the same brain region in different individuals encodes information. As an analogy, athletic ability is not only related to the size of the components of the cardiovascular system or the strength of the connections between the components, it's also related to the proficiency of the individual components. Just like we might ask an athlete to run to measure their endurance and lift weights to measure their strength, neuroimaging tasks require the processing of different types of information and can modulate different brain regions. Therefore, we expect that individual differences in how information is encoded in the brain will be task-specific and predict different behaviors. We propose a framework to identify individual differences in brain encoding and test if these differences can predict behavior. For the first step, we acquire task neuroimaging data. We use task fMRI bold response data for 90 participants collected as part of the Human Connectome project. Then we learn participant-specific encoding models, which predict the task fMRI bold response of each brain region from the stimulus feature space. Next, we collect the predictive performance for each brain region, which is the correlation between the encoding model predicted bold response and the actual bold response on a held out portion of the experiment. The pattern of predictive performance across the brain approximates the encoding of information in the brain. Therefore, we use the predictive performance to predict participant behavior. We first investigated how encoding model performance can vary according to the feature space that is used. Here, we compare the average predictive performance to the variability for 3 different feature spaces for a naturalistic video clip task. The voxels are colored according to the 2D color map, where red corresponds to high predictive performance and blue corresponds to high variability. For the same region, the visual cortex, we find that there is low predictive performance and high variability for the language feature space, and high predictive performance and low variability for the visual stimulus encoding model and the APE model. APE is a more complete feature space that is a superset of the other feature spaces. This highlights that variability of encoding model predictive performance is feature space specific. We also observe that APE has high predictive performance and low variability throughout large swaths of the brain, but not in the motor cortex, which is here shown in blue. We wondered if this high variability in the motor cortex was a special property of the motor cortex or due to the choice of the video clip task. To test this, we look at a motor task which reliably activates the motor cortex. We find that for the motor task, the motor cortex has low variability, and other regions have high variability. For the video clip task, the variability is low in the visual, temporal, and prefrontal cortex, and high elsewhere, including the motor cortex. This highlights that variability of encoding model predictive performance is task-specific. Since predictive performance depends on both the task and encoding model, we hypothesize that the choice of task and encoding model should be made while considering the behavior of interest. However, it is still unclear if individual differences in predictive performance are related to behavior, and furthermore, if the choice of task and encoding model impact this relationship. To test this, we examined if individual differences in encoding model performance predict individual differences in cognitive behavior when evaluated in a leave one family out cross-validation setup. We find that individual differences in encoding model predictive performance predict cognitive behavior. We also find that the choice of task and encoding model impact which behaviors can be predicted, leading us to conclude that the ability to predict behavior is both task and encoding model specific. Therefore, researchers interested in predicting behavior should optimize their choice of task and encoding model for their behavior of interest. Again, my name is Jennifer Williams, and I'd like to thank the people shown here, as well as other past and present members of Layla's group who provided helpful feedback throughout this project. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or comments about this project. I look forward to taking your questions now.